ようこそどうぞはじめまして
Hello everyone, welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. We are ringing in our 8th anniversary with a real banger of a season for summer.
Woo!
Summer 2020 anime.
All right! Bring out
spo-
the big-titted kohais.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, everything we said on the preview episode pretty much came true now that we've seen
Everything sucks ass, yeah.
I mean, considering that this blog
Straight up
literally
profits.
started with, like, what? The Kingdom anime and, like...
Yes.
Which is, by the way, the latest season is all 2D now.
Yes.
Oh,
My
really?
point being that we are celebrating our 8th anniversary just as strongly as we started this blog, so...
Oh yeah, Kingdom Season 1 on Sword Art Online.
Yeah, I wonder if we went back and looked how bad was summer 2012. I know at the very least we had Bimbogami Ga, so that's better than
that's
everything.
true.
That's Sword Art Online, so...
Yeah, and it's true.
I don't
think
remember...
Hyoko was still running, right? Hyoko was still running, so... But
Was
that
it?
was... I think
Yeah,
so.
maybe.
We were halfway through Hyoko, yeah.
It was the second core of Hyoko.
Frankly,
The good
I don't
part.
remember anime becoming good again until 2013 when Kill la Kill started airing, so... everything pre-2013 is what I like to call the dark history of anime.
I mean, we still
Well-
have Fate Zero, 2012.
There were some good things in 2012, which is more than I can say about summer 2020,
Yep.
our season 33 of the GLORIO blog here. So yeah, we're gonna talk about it though. So before we get into it, then let's just introduce everyone. I'm Jel, and if you haven't heard everyone already, I've got Iroh.
Yep, still here, not dead yet.
You've survived both the coronavirus and this anime
Okay,
season.
well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
And G.
I haven't gotten a haircut in like 4 months. My hair is so long. I'm
Yeah.
sorry
I-
to bring up the real pertinent issues here, but it's
You saw me a
it's-
couple weeks ago, I have a
it's
fucking
dro-
mullet now.
Yeah, but you're used to that. I regularly keep my hair like under an inch, so like
Uh-huh.
I
to have
kept-
hair reaching my nose is like apocalyptic. It is
I already
slowly killing
needed-
my soul.
I already needed a haircut when the quarantine started,
Yeah,
and I kept
same.
putting it off. and then eventually everything just locked down. I'm like, well, too late for that. So I'm probably like on 8 months or something.
Oh my
now,
god,
but
I can't even imagine living like that.
I have
when
I have beautiful feathered 70s hair right now.
hell yeah.
It's amazing.
When I was in Rome, I was lucky enough to have a neighbor that had trimmers.
I mean, I'm at the point
yeah.
where I might just buy my own trimmers. Just like, fuck it, I'll just go full taxi driver here. Just do it myself.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen?
I'm too scared to do it myself. But anyway, that's another story. We'll have plenty of time to talk about global pandemics when we get to Gibiate. But
Christ.
and we're also joined this week by Marlon.
Hey, yeah, I'm back in America.
Yes.
It is weird. It's
Surprised they let
actually
you in.
more- Yeah, well, actually, it's like more restrictive here than it is in Italy.
Actually,
I was gonna
I'm
say
surprised,
it's probably
good luck
the
getting
other
out.
way around.
yeah,
Yeah,
good luck
getting
out.
out
yeah,
might be
getting
more
back
of a
is
problem at this point.
Don't
good,
remind me.
good luck getting back into Italy after spending some time here. So
Anyway, for the time being, GLORIO USA is reunited, I suppose. But
Yay.
just in time for these great shows we have to talk about. So let's get into it. I just want to start by mentioning some of the shows that were supposed to be coming back this season haven't actually come back yet, like Millionaire
Ranman.
Detective, Parimranman. There's probably a couple more I'm missing. I think they're due later this month, but those have not come back yet. And this morning they confirmed Gal and Dino will be back in October. I know we were all
good.
waiting.
Sure. That's such a heavy live action component.
the
that-
long-awaited
Right, yeah.
return
Makes sense.
of
Yeah, so I know you were all like holding your breath on that one.
Uh-huh, yeah,
So,
definitely, man.
October, that'll come back. But one show that did make it back, which we can warm up with here, is
Hell yeah.
No Guns Life.
Hell
Wait,
yeah,
this is actually
baby.
a good show.
And this is actually a good show. I mean,
all right.
It's a solid show.
it's
Yeah, it's
if we are grading on the curve, especially
Yeah.
of the rest of this list, it's So, you guys want to refresh everybody's memory what this show is and just
Sure.
see how we're doing in season 2?
So, No Gun's Life, in case you forgot, is the anime where the dude has a gun for a head and he fights crime. I don't know
Yes.
how much else I really need to say here.
Right, it's sort of
Exactly.
like film noir inspired with cyberpunk stuff
Yeah,
going on.
Evil corporations,
Yeah,
etc.
I will say the best way to talk about season 2 of No Gun's Life and to kind of get into like the ethos and like the emotional core of what No Gun's Life is to talk about its opening and ED sequences.
Yes, thank you.
The
Pulling me
opening
down here.
of No Gun's Life season 2. Well, that tells you everything you need to know about what this show is. The OP is composed by Hiroyuki Sawano, with the vocals handled by the lead vocalist of Man with a Mission.
Oh man, I haven't watched this. I need to watch
Yeah,
this.
you should.
Maybe what you need to watch even more, however,
Oh man.
Oh, that's
the
not
new-
even.
is the new ED they've made for season 2, which
Made in Unreal Engine.
yes,
I mean,
Arrow and I-
the background of that show has always been in Unreal Engine.
Yeah, but it's
Oh, yeah?
usually
But,
like, so yes, to give some context, the like sort of experimental thing they've done with No Gun's Life is that the characters are drawn in traditional 2D, but the backgrounds are made in 3D, specifically using Unreal Engine 4, which is a little unprecedented because that is largely a game engine, but it has some
Hey,
uses.
I mean, an engine that can produce 3D environments quickly it has lots of uses, I guess.
especially for a fast production, timeline like animes. But Iro and I sort of anguished over trying to figure out the best way to verbally describe the new ED for No Gun's Life, and the best we could come up with is either early 2000s Square Enix CG intro,
demo.
or a tech demo for like Unreal Engine 2.
Right, I
So,
was
so
gonna say,
like
it looks
so like
like
a cut. So like a cutscene from Front Mission 3 or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Right.
like a PS1
like
pre-rendered
something
cutscene.
from Tekken.
Yeah, yeah.
Characters twerking in the background or something like that.
Yes,
So it's
yes,
like-
you have to expect Heihachi to show up in the background throwing fucking Jin Kazuma into a volcano or something. It's
Fighting a bear or something.
Right.
like that.
right.
We're in like a neon lit cyberpunk street, and the street brawls going on between Inui Juzo, Mr. Gunhead wearing a wife beater, versus Glockhead man wearing a hooded raincoat.
So
and they're having a fist fight in the rain, and they're surrounded by like robot cyborg guys doing dance loops from a 2005 video game.
and also in the background, the female cast are showing up in a holographic display, twerking.
of course. So is this an intentional stylistic choice, or is this like
I don't know.
somebody's first effort at making 3D animation?
It's hard
and
to
they-
say. It's really hard to say,
yeah.
but
No idea.
it truly nails the tone of No Gun's Life.
Yeah, that
It's-
should be. Yeah.
If anything, you look at
Alright.
it and you're like, man, I'm really glad that the characters are illustrated 2D in the anime itself, because the CG is of a time.
Everything's like weirdly glossy. There's no like good texture work or anything.
Right.
Right,
Like
right.
again, that's why we say PS1 in the sense that like it's high res, right? Like it's not like it's blurry or anything, but it's like there's just like
Right.
a weird lack of texture.
Low
on
polygon
everything.
count, no textures, right?
Yeah, it's like it's just
Alright.
like you don't really understand what motivated them to go down this path, but if nothing else, like I think I am adamant in saying that the No Guns Life Season 2 ending sequence is probably the most visually memorable thing I've watched this season so far.
Okay.
Man, that's wild that the Suino Man with a Mission combo is not the headliner here.
No, that's like the
on-
footnote to all of this. Like that's really the crazy thing about it.
Right.
So, I guess, is there anything notable or distinct about season 2? different than season 1 going into
No.
this?
No, it's
No.
literally a continuation. Like, last season
Okay.
I actually caught up on it the last couple of days, and I forgot, I didn't realize they just ended on a one-off episode that sets up the next plot arc.
Right, because
Okay.
they.
So
I
future
think,
generations will just watch this as one season basically, or
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
One show,
thing,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
because I mean,
Right,
again,
yeah.
this was meant to start airing last season, so I guess in the
Right.
grand scheme of things, it wasn't that long of a gap between seasons
was
originally.
only, one
Right.
season off or something, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe 2. I don't know. Who has any concept of time anymore these days?
Right.
All right. Well, I guess if you've watched season 1, it's back, and if you liked season 1, you'll probably like season 2. It sounds like,
And it's not like there's
that
much
dude
other
still
choice.
has a gun head.
and at the very least, I will have to check out the opening and ending songs.
Yes. It's still fun. It's like, it's fun, schlocky, noir stuff. If you want to watch a guy beat people up and, get torn to pieces because he's a robot and get repaired, it's there for you.
Right.
I will say the
You
one
know.
it's a tiny little detail. It doesn't really. This is not effective editorial for the quality of this show or anything. But apologies, the anime police have come for me again. But it is he is not really spoiler, but he loses an arm at the end of season 1, right? But he's a robot man, so it's totally fine. He'll probably, he has both his arms in both OP and the ED, so I assume he gets another arm later. But his whole thing is that he is like a gunhead cyborg, right? Like even his fighting style is like gun kung fu, right? Like he has guns in his
Right.
fists. And so at the end of the second episode, right, he usually he cocks his hand, right, because he has a gun in his hand, but this time because he only has one hand, he cocks the gun with his fucking teeth. And it's not really that special of a moment, but it's little pieces like that are just the most fucking schlocky 80s cool guy bullshit that I just
Right.
Right.
completely love, and that is why I come to this show for.
All right. Well, if that doesn't sell you, then I don't know what else we can tell you, I guess.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's go to just another returning show that made
Yeah.
it back.
Digimon's
talk-
back.
Yes, Digimon Adventure, the 2020 edition, has finally made it back.
It's
You have
kind
it-
of more into the swing of things than it was. We were doing a lot of complaining over the first few episodes that the digital world was blue Tron blocks, and it looked shitty. But as by now they have moved into the proper digital world, which looks a lot more similar to what it looked like in the original show.
That's good.
And they explain that this digital world is a deeper layer, and the Blutron block stuff was was the more upper layer of the network.
Okay,
Now they're in the deep web.
That's a dumb explanation that I'm entirely here for.
And
Okay.
they've been slowly introducing the rest of the core cast.
Have they explained
They-
why they're only changing into digital champions and not fucking just jumping straight into Omnimon every episode like they did at the beginning?
Well, Matt's not here, man.
Oh,
So obviously
well.
they can't. Also, no, they have not explained that. Also, I'm just gonna complain here for a second. Whenever Agumon turns to Greymon, they have this huge, lavish, wonderfully animated transformation sequence.
Oh, it's
and
not
nobody
bad
else has
CG?
one.
What? Not even
It's not bad
Iggy
CG.
or anyone?
So they have transformation sequences, but they're short.
I mean, yes, I totally
But-
get. I haven't even seen this, but I already understand what you're saying here. Is that Greymon is
Right.
clearly getting the lion's share of the budget?
Oh yeah.
Right.
Just like how in the original Greymon and Garurumon got the CG for their transformations, which made them age poorly.
I mean, yes.
But yeah, it continues to be mostly inoffensive Digimon stuff. I don't really like the character redesigns. Still don't know who the show is for.
Are they really that different? Because Iggy looks pretty
No,
much the same.
but yes.
No, I know what Euro's saying. This is like one of those like very particular sorts of things that fans care deeply about. That like to everybody else, it's like, I don't understand. Her hat is green instead of blue. What's the problem? But everybody else, the true fans, are like, no, you don't understand.
Like,
See,
right.
the hat was blue because in this vital episode, blah blah blah. Like, I get it. I totally get it. Right.
Right.
It's like
Well,
if a Gundam showed
half
up
of the
slightly...
half of the redesigns, my brain will look at them and go, oh yeah, that's that character, and then half of them, I look at them like something's wrong.
Oh,
Right.
like an
I don't know
Uncanny
what's
Valley.
wrong, but something's wrong.
I mean, it all ties back to the, are they going for nostalgia? Or are they going for a new
Right.
thing debate? Right.
Yeah, but it looks, the quality is, I would say, dipped after the first 3 episodes, but
as
it
expected.
still looks all right. Again, Toei is either really good or like not good, with hardly any middle ground. So
Right.
honestly, you could do worse.
I mean,
Still
that's
Digimon.
the-
You like Digimon? We got some Digimon right here.
I mean, that
Cactus
might be
still
enough to
punching
get
guys.
me back in, especially considering there's nothing else. Like, to knowing that it's actually in the digital world and not in the weird Blutron space is a lot.
Right. I will complain about a weird subtitle choice. So in the original Japanese for Digimon Adventure, the kids were referred to as the Chosen Children. And for the dub, well, it changes to the Digi-Destined.
Right.
And that's fine. But the new subtitles for this show are translated as the Chosen Ones. And I
Yeah.
don't know what is gained by that rather than just the Chosen Children or the Digi-Destined.
Yeah,
really,
Digidestined is just like it. Come on, it's a good alliteration.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I could see not using it because they're not using. Everyone's using their Japanese names. now,
No, that's
too,
true.
Because they're subtitling in Japanese.
Right.
I'll just wait till the real fan subs come out with the names change back to what they probably
I don't know.
are.
That's was it the Ace Attorney that Crunchyroll gave you the option to do
Oh yeah.
one or the other?
Oh, really?
But also right.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, the localization of those games is legendary.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eat your hamburgers.
Shouts to
Apollo.
Alexander O. Smith.
Yes, eat your hamburgers.
Oh yeah, Digimon,
all right.
Digimon's still here. Better than Atmon.
Oh, yeah,
Bar.
you're referencing another Digimon show. Yes,
We were all pretending that didn't.
completely forgot that
So,
even
It
existed.
didn't get officially translated, so it might as well not exist.
Sure.
Yeah.
We watched that show in English subs that were machine translated from Spanish subs.
So
That probably made it a lot better.
was War Greymon introduced as the Generalissimo of the digital world?
No, I gotta wish.
All right, let's get this pain train started here.
All right, now that the good shows
Choo-choo.
are done.
Oh, also
let's
the
wait on
narrator of the new Digimon is Goku.
Oh,
That's weird.
that's
Yeah,
weird.
that's weird.
Like of all the famous voices I would pick for narrator, Goku would not be at the top of my list.
Whatever,
Yeah,
she is
it's
great.
odd.
Masaki
I mean,
Gonzalez is
I'm
treasure.
a Goku voice apologist. I'm just
Oh,
saying I wouldn't
really?
want her narrating.
It's just weird because she has voiced Digimon in other Digimon shows.
Oh,
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
She was Guilmon in
right.
Digimon. Anyway, we can move on.
yes. Let's talk about Dokyuu Hentai Heroes or
How about we
Eros, if you will.
How about we
this was some like real primo late 90s early 2000s harem nonsense
No, really.
with, yes, it was basically there. It's supposed to be like a Super Sentai parody thing, except everybody's horny.
You say that, but Golden Boy was good.
Well, the thing is, I think the show could have actually been pretty funny if they really leaned into the comedy aspects and the whole like Sentai parody thing, but they kind of don't.
That's a shame.
It's
They
only
really
like
don't.
it's really surface level, like they don't really do anything with it, and it's really more about how the main girl has been suppressing her horniness all her life, and now they can flip that around as a
Now she
superpower
can
to
finally
fight
be
the
horny.
yes, because you have to have your H energy to fight the monsters, and when you punch them, your clothes explode off, and it's It's about as bad as you expect it is.
Zig made us watch this with him because he had to do the
Yes.
post. Read the post, by the way. He did a good job.
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
But I most remember there was a scene where the monster tried to suck the girl's horny energy when she was like 8.
Yes.
But oh no, she's too horny. There's too much horny energy. The monster can't take it. The
Yeah,
monster
even
explodes because
those-
she's got too much horny energy.
Those
Yeah.
And I was
famously
just like,
horny
I'm done.
8-year-olds.
I just turned down the
Yeah.
volume and started watching anime openings in another tab for the rest of the episode.
Yep. So that's bad. I don't think we have to say anything more about it.
No.
Even if you wanted to watch a bad show, there are better bad shows to watch than this one.
God,
Yeah.
ain't that just our
Like-
fucking brand line right there?
Like maybe the next show, for example, on our list, Lapis Relights, which is the idol show of the season, I suppose, or is it? Is the question mark? So I think I'm the only one that watched this, but it was basically like, we all thought it looked like Bang Dream featuring Poppin' Party, but what if you took that whole aesthetic and made it Little Witch Academia?
That doesn't sound terrible yet.
It's not awful, but it's also like the whole Bang Dream thing is like, it might actually be more bland than Love Live as far as like the characters and the writing and everything.
Oh, so
Like,
it'll
it's
be
real-
super successful then.
It's like real cardboard cutout characters that have like one personality trait, and then there's just like a billion of them. So like they only have time to like be that one personality trait type of
Right.
thing. And so yeah, they're doing like a little bit of like Little Witch Academia, and there's like some kind of class war thing going on within the school, and everybody has magic powers and
Class warfare,
There was-
you say? Tell me more.
actually. Yeah, like the main girl joins, like she's like in the poor people class, and they're getting bullied by the rich people, and
Eat the rich, you say? Tell me more.
yeah,
Hell
so
yeah.
they're gonna try to take down the rich classes. But the thing is, I'm still being told this is an idol anime, but there was zero idol anime idling going on in the first episode at least.
Oh, give it time.
So are you
'Cause-
sure it's not just like a stealth reboot of Baka and Test or something like that? 'Cause that's pretty much the same plot.
Well, that part of it, yes, but in general, it's more of like a magic school thing. But
Okay.
and as far as I know, I don't know if they're going to be fighting each other or what. But I'm told it is still going to be an idol anime at some point, and there is actually singing. Like the main girl starts singing a song in the middle of the episode for like no reason. So I'm assuming they're going to get to that eventually. But there is actually none of that in the first episode. It was just like introducing characters and showing them shooting like magic crossbows and stuff like that.
Is this better or worse than just Starlight Review?
It's worse.
Okay.
Well, by worse, I mean it's more boring. Starlight Review at least has some like interesting things going on to start that were like,
You're right.
it at the very least had that transformation sequence.
No, because I was about to jump in. I was saying, no, Starlight Review's actual one memorable thing was those God Tier transformation sequences.
And the talking giraffes and stuff like that. Like there were some interesting things like there was some like style to. Is it Review Starlight or is it Starlight Review? I don't remember.
I don't
Review Starlight,
remember.
I think. But
It's one of the two.
yeah, there was some actual like unique style to that, where this is like the most generic like art style and everything that has like no real personality to it. But I mean, it wasn't awful. I mean, if you like this kind of stuff, it's probably fine. There was nothing like like offensive about it or anything. So there you go. That's my extremely enthusiastic endorsement of Lapis Re. All right. Well, I guess speaking of generic, let's move on to our next show, which one of the big Crunchyroll originals.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, another Korean manga getting the big Crunchyroll
Right.
push.
Yes,
Right.
another Korean webtoon. So, The God of High School debuted this season, and I I actually liked the first episode for the most part.
Yeah, same here.
Like, I just felt like I enjoyed it, like, as a one-off episode. Obviously, the fight scenes are pretty great. The animation, like, they really poured a lot of work.
Right.
There's a lot of talent being poured into this.
That's some of Park's bread and butter.
Yeah.
Right. And, like, and even beyond the fights, like, some of the comedy bits were really well done and everything, I thought, in the first episode. But I could tell, like, the ceiling for this show is extremely low. Yeah. So, like, one episode is pretty fun, and then you get to episode 2 and you're like, oh, they're not really trying anything.
You kind of already immediately begin to realize how unambitious this show is going to be. Like, to give it the brief synopsis, that's all this show really needs. The God of High School is a world in which, I assume it's probably the whole world, but for now, in South Korea, they hold a tournament called the God of High School, in which all the best high school-aged martial artists compete to decide who is the best fight guy. The main
and also
character,
a random murderer.
Whatever. That's part and parcel with all these kinds of like fight guy shows, and
right.
You know, our protagonist is one such fight guy, and he meets Fight Girl and another fight guy, and together they will probably fight more guys, and that's about what you really need to know. Yes, as stated before, this is being handled by MAPPA and directed by none other than Sung-Ho Park of Garo Vanishing Line in the Garo movie, whose name I always forget, but
Divine Flame.
The Divine Flame. So yeah, so the thing about the show is, like, with that kind of pedigree, there's some really good fighting in this, and like not just like typical anime fighting, but like really, really solid hand-to-hand combat, which you know, if you guys know me, is the thing I kind of talk about, you know, from time to time, is like when you can't rely on, you know, energy beams and like mystical powers, which unfortunately the anime seems to already be hinting at. So again, speaks to the very low ceiling this show has, because you can already tell the fights are going to become a lot less interesting as time goes on. But for now, when it is ostensibly a mundane martial arts tournament, it's a lot of good-ass anime fist fighting, you know, just people
but I
beating
would
each
say
other
that
up.
episode 2 really, like, it already seems like they threw that out the window. That they're already getting into weird energy stuff, even, like, between the two Taekwondo guys.
Right, you got the good Taekwondo and then the bad Taekwondo.
The good Southern Korean Taekwondo and the bad Northern Korean.
That uses dirty tricks like jabbing people in the eye and stuff.
There's a lady who does suplexes.
Right, there's a buff lady that does a stone cold stunner in the first episode. So
that's right. That was fun.
On some level, I'm like, oh, I guess the show's all right.
Yeah, I think for me personally, like, I think for a lot of people, even just the visual spectacle, and maybe for you guys, the visual spectacle of this is enough to carry it, at least enough to watch it, right? You might not rave about it or whatever, but at least, you know, I want to see what cool fight they're going to pull out next or whatever. But there's so little reason to care about any of it. Like, so like in episode 2, they get to, like, you know, the main fight is like the Tai Chi guy, who's the first, like, guy who's good enough to have an actual name, right? And he's fighting he right away fights the main bad guy and gets his ass beat, and, you know, main guy leaps in to save him, and it's supposed to, like, this big triumphant moment or something. Like, we haven't had any, like, time or anything to really care about this.
Right.
It looks cool, but, like, this, you know, and I don't know if they were rushing through some chapters or something here or but, like,
I definitely suspect that might actually be the case, because you can see them kind of try in episode 2, right? Where, like, oh, see, they've become friends because they all start looking for the girl's sword in the river, right?
Right.
Like, they try,
which
but
of course her backstory is
the most
I have to save my father's dojo.
I mean, yes, it is
Right?
literally Makoto's backstory from Street Fighter. Except
or like
Makoto's way
other
fucking
characters.
cooler. So,
right.
but yeah, and it's like. So this is like the thing where I think this show, again, it's like a distinctly, I don't want to say you can clearly tell people are putting a lot of work into this, but like it feels like a very distinctly unambitious show. Like,
right,
it's just not going to reach that high, and that's not necessarily a problem, right? Like, there's something to be enjoyed about a show like that, right? Like we were just talking about No Guns Life, a show that I think that probably isn't going to necessarily reach for the stars, but like, you know, it is totally happy to exist in its lane. But there's definitely something about.
There's nobody with a gun for a head in God.
Right, and I think that's actually kind of what really gets into it. Is, you know, she's not here for the podcast, but Artemis wrote for the first look post for God of High School, and she kind of has a really good point where she says this show either needs to take itself way more seriously, or it needs to be like 200% crazier. Like, it exists in this weird place where it's like, it's this premise of like this absurd, you know, pan martial arts tournament where anything goes, weapons are allowed, but then the actual, like,
people are healed by nanomachines.
Right. People are healed by nanomachines, literal nanomachines.
From
but
like,
then, like,
killer, like the one girl breaks his neck, like he should have been dead. But then, like, yeah, somehow the nanomachines bring him back to life.
It makes it so they can have HP and power levels.
Right, and it sounds like that's absurd, but I kind of love that, right? Like, the idea of, like, like, we inject nanomachines into you to create, like, actual video game stats in a real-life setting is, like, ridiculous, but then it's like, it just, none of it goes quite far enough. And, you know, I think, again, I keep bringing them up, but you compare this to, like, you know, kind of the other two, like, 800-pound gorillas in this space, which are Baki and Kengan Azura, and, like, you know, those are shows in which a guy is powerful because he has twice as many bones in his body as the average person. You know, like, it's
that's how that works.
Right, it's these utterly absurd explanations, right? Like, they explain that, like, the reason a pro wrestler can fight against an African mercenary is because pro wrestlers are good at feinting. That pro wrestlers are really good at selling damage, but actually not being that damaged. And the African mercenary, who's usually used to, you know, life or death scenarios, isn't used to someone faking being hurt, right? It's like, these are, like, utterly absurd explanations for the fights. And meanwhile, the God of High School is just like, my taekwondo's better than yours. And it's like, that's just not a very, you know, that's just not nearly as exciting or self-aware, really.
There's really no stakes either. Like, I was thinking about other shonen shows that I actually like, and, like, you know, Yu Yu Hakusho, I guess, would be my favorite. And, like, immediately there's some stakes, and then, like, the stakes always seem to get, like, you know, more intense. But at the very least, there's something very real threatened. Whereas the only thing that these characters are really threatened by is, like, poverty or losing their dojo or their sense of honor, I guess. Like,
hey, don't get me wrong, poverty and property are totally worthwhile things to fight for, but I totally get what you're saying.
It's not like someone's gonna die if you don't do this.
Like, if Yusuke doesn't win that tournament, Genkai might teach her forbidden techniques to someone who doesn't deserve to learn them. Like, Yusuke had to win that tournament.
Okay, I guess you're right, that one wasn't quite...
Well,
fine.
Here's another way of looking at it. Like,
characters were established by that point, though. Usually
these big, like, battle shonen type shows don't start with a tournament arc. Like, the tournament arc is you bring that up later as like okay, now we need to just, like, give all these characters side characters moments to shine and stuff like that, right? Like,
right.
Like, usually you have some kind of high stakes big fight for the planet, or, you know, saving your family or something or whatever, and the, you know, and that's like the main plot, and then, you know, your tournament arc is like, you know, just something you go through for, you know, like I said, working your way through the cast or whatever. But, like, God of High School is the tournament arc from what we can tell so far, right? I don't know if they'll go in another direction later or something, but so it is kind of just like, you know, what are we all doing this for? It's a bunch of kids beating each other up.
Which, again, it's like, I can almost appreciate a show doing away with the pretense of plot and just being like, you're just here for the blood sport. I get it. Here you go. I can almost appreciate that, but I think it's just that the actual execution, which, again, very technically accomplished, just needs to be, like, I think it just needs to be a little bit more extra, right? Like, I was talking about this with Iro when I was watching this. I was like, you know, fucking Sword from Garo Vanishing Line could probably solo this tournament by himself. That dude punched a bullet. The only reason he wouldn't win the tournament is because he would get disqualified once they figured out he wasn't a high school student or South
Right.
Korean. But otherwise,
Right,
like
like the fights are cool, but could you really do you even remember any of the individual parts of it or anything? It's just
Dude punched that dude like 5 times. That's all I got.
I guess the guy got axe kicked in the face once. That's
That lady did a suplex.
Actually, are they implying that everyone is Korean?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know, actually. I guess I'd have to pay closer attention to the
All
names.
the names
but,
given so far have been Korean.
Korean, right? Like,
Okay.
even the Tai Chi guy,
Okay.
I think, was Korean, so I think...
Oh, okay. It's just
I
like
think
they might
that's
have
the case.
styles that don't originate from
Yeah.
Korea. Okay.
Right.
I mean, that's how you... I mean, look, for these kind of shows, that's your natural setup, right? That's your natural escalation, right? The first tournament is national. Then the next tournament, you introduce the Americans, and...
Well, then why do you have the pro wrestling lady now? Like, is it... whatever.
Well,
Pro
maybe she grew up in
wrestling
Korea. Maybe she grew up in Korea. Who knows?
Pro
But,
wrestling transcends all national borders.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
All right. I guess I'll probably still watch it. For being honest, maybe I would in other seasons.
Definitely not in a better season, but in this season, just maybe.
Yeah.
It just really dragged in episode 2 though, so I don't know if I'll make it past 3, but I'll at least try.
It's got more charm than Tower of God.
That's true. I did enjoy it a lot more than Tower of God.
This is
Which a lot of people have been saying, now that that's kind of deep into because that's still running from last season.
Is it?
I think so.
I thought it was done.
Oh, maybe it's done. I don't know. But a lot of people are saying ultimately that ended up being they were playing to the people who read the webtoon more than making a good anime.
Sure.
Is what I heard on that,
Yeah.
which might have made sense. But so I mean, I've definitely enjoyed this a lot more than that one. But not a high bar there.
what a stunning recommendation by the GLORIO.
Another wholehearted recommendation from the GLORIO blog.
Crunchyroll, if you want to put the GLORIO blog on the back of the DVD box, here's your
Sponsor
quote.
us.
It was better than the Tower of
Hey,
God.
we'll fucking read our Crunchyroll advertisements if you pay us.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, totally.
I will gladly be sponsored by Crunchyroll.
Oh, we'll happily sell
you wanna
out.
Hit me up on that.
Hi, Dive, if you're listening, we have a Legend of Galactic Heroes podcast that just finished up, and we'll re-record that podcast if you sponsor us.
Yeah, they owe you a check for that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they owe you at least $120 worth of subscriptions.
Yeah. All right. Let's move along to oh boy, DECA-DENCE.
Yeah,
This
here we
was
go.
our
Yeah.
interesting.
This was our this was our I guess our the one we most were hoping was going to be good or thought had the best chance of being good this season. And episode 1 was good. And set us up for what we thought was going to be a pretty straightforward experience.
And then
There were a
episode
lot
2
of-
just fucking punched us in the face, and I kind of love it.
Yeah.
Episode 1 actually was deliberately pulling clear inspiration from other anime, and it did felt like this was going to be exactly what we were looking at, exactly what we
felt like a trigger
everything at
anime,
face value.
honestly.
And it was good. I was on board, and I think it's at least fair to say episode 2 is a bit divisive.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
They take a huge, massive twist in episode 2.
Yes.
I don't know. Do we want to spoil it? We always have a
it is
standing.
episode 2. It's not
spoiler warning, and it needs to be discussed.
So here's the thing. I do want to make it clear. I think a lot of the effect of DECA-DENCE's second episode is because you don't see it coming. because
Right.
it is so out of left field that I think if you go into Decadence knowing that twist is coming, I think a lot of the impact
Even
is
knowing
lost.
that there is a twist to the second
Right.
episode.
So, like,
Well,
I
I mean,
will
they
say-
did have a slight implication in the first episode.
Right,
Yes,
At the very
but,
least,
that implication still left you completely in the dark. Like it didn't.
Right.
The revelations of episode 2 are barely implied in episode 1. Like
Right.
It,
You know the old guy has got something going on in the background. but that's
Right.
pretty
And there's
much-
something about robots.
Right. So I'm thinking it's gonna be some sort of like conspiracy theory, plot to overthrow decadence type thing or something like that.
right, but like.
And,
So the thing I will say is, like, we'll just say, I don't know, like, Jell, if it's too much work, but, like, if you just put, like, timestamps in the show notes for this one, just in case, like, I don't
I
know.
mean,
but, like,
if someone is listening to this and they haven't paused
I
or
always-
skipped
I
ahead
always-
by now,
I always
Right, I mean-
time. Yes.
I mean,
always
my
timestamp the
point
notes, so
is,
it's
like,
fine.
if you really, really care about not getting spoiled in Decadence, like, just skip ahead, because
Yes.
we are probably going to go fully into it starting, like, now. But,
Yes. You've been warned.
yeah, this show...
it's an
This
MMO.
is the show that I think... This is the show that deserves the capital D discourse. Like, this is the one. Like, this is the one this season. Like, it's... It's
I actually
wild.
like
And, like,
this.
that's the thing. Like, Marlon, that's the thing. It's not even an MMO. Not really. Like,
Well, right,
it's
yeah.
not... Like, the thing is that this is like the B-C tier Gerard Butler film Gamer. Like... where
yeah, you're right.
this is not a virtual world. The reveal is that the decadence does take place on Earth. Those are humans, and they are being attacked by monstrous creatures whose blood is being harvested for some sort of like fuel or resource. All those things are real. The actual twist, however, is that it's like a reservation park. It's like an alien reservation park, and the aliens
Right.
like insert themselves into human-shaped drones, basically.
So I guess I assumed
To-
that they were like AI programs.
Yeah, I didn't get the implication that it was all completely real. I don't know.
Well, no.
I missed
I
that.
think the Earth is real, but I think that the representations of the weird blocky guys that's like AI.
But they're
some-
plugging the
but-
juice into their bodies.
But
Oh, yeah, that's
that's the
true.
thing, right? They are the blood they are harvesting. They are that is a physical
Right.
resource to them. They are
But
Right.
but they're still
injecting
like
themselves
robots.
with it. Sure. So my
They're
point.
not
but my point
aliens.
is, well, aliens,
They're alien
robots,
robots.
whatever. Alien
Okay, fine.
robots. All right. My point
Alien
is-
robots, fine.
But,
All
but
right,
my
yes.
point is that it is not an MMO because the world itself is not actually virtual, right?
Right.
And like. The reason why I think this show needs to be discussed part and parcel with Gundam Build Divers Reruns is because suddenly, like, Decadence Episode 1 promises to be conventionally good, right? Episode 1 of Decadence, the version of this podcast where we're discussing only Episode 1 is a version where we're like, it's pretty by the numbers, but like it's really charming, right? It's really charming. It's well made. The premise isn't
Like the monster
that
design.
revolutionary, right? But like it leans into a certain type of anime style adventure that is very appealing. Episode 2 is where you suddenly you're like, oh, these people are now ambitious, and that means that this version of Decadence has the potential to be far greater than the Episode 1 version of Decadence could ever hope to be. But conversely,
Yes.
all risk, all reward, baby. This show could fucking completely implode on itself if it cannot
Oh, yeah.
pull off
Yeah.
the check it has cashed. Like,
Yes. It raised the bar considerably. The ceiling is higher. We talked about kind of high school not having a high ceiling. This has an immense
this
ceiling.
has the highest
but-
ceiling of any show this season.
I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But that's the thing.
Some of the
That's a problem, right?
logistics
So,
of this world still are confusing to me. So like the alien bug things are real, and they
Yeah.
get this real energy from them, but it's a resort, but they're owned by a corporation. So I'm like, But why are the humans? What do they need the humans for? Is it just because they're like
It's
an
a
endangered
curiosity.
species? Okay, I guess.
Honestly, I think
That's
that is
part
But
of
it
the-
seems
that's
like
part
they
of the
don't
fun.
spend a lot of their time interacting with the humans because they spend a lot of their
right
time
because they
fighting the
treat them like
monsters in
I
the
mean,
video game.
and they
They're there
and they
to treat them like
humans-
NPCs.
NPCs.
Okay.
Like that is the thing, right? Like
Right.
so again, the reason why I get really excited about DECA-DENCE is for the same reasons that Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise disappoints us. Because Build Divers Re-Rise evokes at some very similar themes to DECA-DENCE. And for those who have like listened, you've probably already heard this twist already, or you probably don't care by this point, but the twist of Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise is that the MMO is real. Right? That the people that they originally treat as NPCs are real human or real furry people.
Right.
They're,
And not just computer constructs, but they are actually being transported to another planet.
Right, yes, and that the conflict they're engaging in, the lives that they are taking are real lives. And the reason why Divers Re-Rise disappoints us is because it brings up that revelation and then kind of proceeds to do nothing particularly interesting with it. Or it does once every like 5 to 6 episodes. And so maybe part of my excitement for DECA-DENCE is me projecting onto DECA-DENCE the thing that I deeply needed from Divers Re-Rise, which is like, in a lot of ways, DECA-DENCE is the show I'm already beginning to say is like, if they can pull it off, this is a masterful metaphor for late-stage capitalism. Like, the usage of human lives as an entertainment-based resource, like, the humans are basically living on a reservation, right? Like, and
Right.
Yup.
the aliens, like, there's implication that, right, like, this is both entertainment and sport, but also, like, an industry for them, right? Like, they kind of lead to this, like, in the backstory
Gotta
where
be
they
a top
reveal...
rank.
Right, like, you have to be a top rank. Why do you need to be top rank? Because you get the most juice, right? If you're a low rank or nobody, you don't get the juice. And the juice, it is implied, they need the juice to live. So, like...
Right.
And, of
Right.
course, however, like, we see how much juice
And
they get from the
they keep-
monsters, right?
Yeah.
Like, whereas, like, the players get, like, a pittance, right? They get, like, less than 1% of their spoils, and the rest of it goes to, like, the nebulous corporation that owns the whole
Right.
reservation.
Yup, and it keeps telling, remember, players, your company property.
Right, they
Right.
keep mentioning that. And so there's, like, a really, potentially really interesting, like class war, to get back to class warfare, really interesting class warfare parable at play here, because again, the humans that they treat as NPCs are real humans, and they're already kind of beginning to hint at, the main the main character Natsume, her like generic anime youthful idealism is starting to rub off on the old guy, and the old guy is kind of having his own thoughts of like rebellion against the system, right? And so it's like,
Right.
there's some really, really interesting elements at play here, but the really, the $1 million question, of course, is, can they pull any of this off?
I think you guys are getting your hopes too high.
I still have hopes that this will be a good show. I don't know
I don't-
if it'll pull off everything that we hope it could.
I don't know. There was a certain feeling to me of just like having too much of the rug pulled out from under us to me. I don't know. Like all the things that I liked about the first episode kind of just went out the window once they did the big reveal. And like, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I really love when things are ambitious. Like, and I love that they even like went way off the rails with like the alternate world is like not even close to the same like art style or anything like that. It's just like it looks like a
right. We haven't even gotten to like visually how ambitious this show has become with its second episode. Like
right, going from the the sort of post-apocalyptic brown and earth-colored earth-toned world of the humans to the weird, bold-lined, colorful cartoon world of the robot alien
right, like the
people or
robot
whatever.
world feels like a segment out of like Space Dandy or something directed by Yuasa. It's like so. It's such.
It doesn't look
ambitious
like an anime.
shift in
Like
tone.
it doesn't look like a. It doesn't.
I wonder.
They don't look like anime characters anymore, right? It's like
I do wonder if
it's
that's
completely
intentional
different.
too, though, because like, and then he takes her to like the secret area where the robots go, and it's almost like a Destiny hub world kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's
right. Like
supposed to
there's
be,
a
right, like
there's a skin shop, right? There's
Right.
like the cosmetics shop and stuff. It's like, again, I think it's playing with things that I think are really interesting. But I do agree with you, Jill. It's like, oh god, can they pull off any of this? Like, it's so ambitious. And this show is only 12 episodes. Like, let me remind you, this is a one-course show. So it's like...
Yeah. And it's like, I don't feel like I don't know if it's just like a gut instinct or what, but just like, I don't feel like the writing or something's just not like up to this challenge that they're presenting themselves with this concept. And I feel like, I mean, if they pull it off, it'll be great, but I feel like getting our hopes up is probably going to lead to disappointment on it.
Will this be the Dragon pilot of summer 2020? Just the...
cause me
I
pain, why
know.
don't you?
Just the show we all
I
so
think
desperately wanted to believe in to the bitter end.
You know what I think it is?
What?
The second I realized the twist, I started thinking about Star Ocean 3.
Yep, me too, buddy.
Oh man, I never played
Fucking
that.
Star Ocean.
Yeah, I haven't played that, so.
And I'm like, are they pulling a Star Ocean 3 in episode 2? Are you kidding
Christ.
me?
talk
And
to me
for
about
anybody
Star
that didn't play, I'm not going to get into why. I'm not going to get what happens in Star Ocean 3, but let's just say that's not a good comparison.
Okay, because I was
Okay.
saying my frame of reference was, is this the custom Robo story mode of anime? And I'll also leave it at that. But
Actually, if they pulled a real Star Ocean 3 and essentially went to fight then maybe that would be more interesting. But I don't know. But I started thinking about that and how dumb I thought that twist was, and I kind of felt the same about
fair.
this one. But
the
wonder
last
if,
thing I will say,
I do think
go ahead.
they're going to have to go, like, because they kind of implied that there's a area in which it's not the entire Earth as a playground, but it's almost like just a certain
right,
section.
like a cordoned off section of it.
Yeah, so I wonder if eventually they have to go into like the post-apocalypse, outside of the
outer
post-apocalypse.
world, the outer wilds.
Yeah, you know.
I don't know.
One of those
There's
two.
places the show can go. I don't know.
Right,
and I
sure.
think it's got potential.
The last thing I will say though is that I think to answer some of your suspicions, Jell, I think that maybe a way this show can kind of like bring it back is how much do they lean into the reality that to mention once again the humans in this show are real, and also they are not in the know. They don't know the reality of their situation. They think they live in a Mad Max apocalypse world. And so, like Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise, then the question you need to answer is how well can you evoke their very real struggles, right? Like, even if this is a game to you, even if this is all fake, like, their struggles are real, right? Their tragedy is real. Natsume's father is still dead, right? Like, she's still missing an arm. Like, the question then is, like, even in this, like, simulation world, how well can you evoke, like, the very, like, real tangibility of the struggles of the characters that you have now immediately framed as, like, set dressing.
right. I mean, there are ways they can pull this off. I did not get a strong feeling that they're gonna do it though, based on what we've seen so far.
Fair enough.
But
Right.
nobody can say until it happens here, so we'll have to. I mean, I'll keep watching it. I want to know what happens at this point.
I mean,
But,
even with episode 2, I think
I don't know.
it is the one to watch. Like, if nothing else, right? Like, if
Gotta
you're gonna
keep
watch
an eye on
any,
this.
what?
Yeah, gotta keep an eye on this one.
Yeah. Like, whether it turns out good or bad, I think this is the one to pay attention to this season.
Right. Okay. Well, you guys have already started talking about Gundam Build Divers, which also came back. Do you have anything else you want to add about that at this point, other than it's back?
We're gonna talk
I mean-
about how it almost was interesting and then pulled back at the last second again.
Yeah, so that's the thing. The story of Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise continues to be a show that hints at greatness and then pulls back at the last second every single time.
Right.
You know,
like
to the point where
2 episodes since it returned. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, you go.
Yeah, just the 2 episodes since it returned from hiatus are like the main character's traumatic backstory and all that of how his AI waifu died, basically.
Basically, yeah. To like give some
Oh,
context, so one of the quote unquote twists of season 1 of Build Divers is that there's a new race of being created in the MMO, which are known as the L Divers, but because I watched Tron Legacy, I call them the ISOs. But in the sense that they are a new race of like legitimately like true AI beings, right? Made inside, like organically spawned inside of the MMO. And our main character, Hiroto, in season 2, has a tragic backstory, a tragic romance with an L diver. And the 2 episodes of the new season kind of get into that. And for different reasons, both episodes hint at and remind you of why the whole Gundam Build Fighters franchise can be so deeply appealing. The first of these 2 episodes has, you know, Hiroto in his flashback, you know, participating in what they describe as the last Gunpla battle. Basically, like, they're holding
before they plug in the MMO.
Right, before they start up the MMO and scrap the old Gundam Build Fighters Gunpla battle tables for good. They're holding, like, one last celebration tournament for it. And it's weird how the fight itself, like, there's no reason why the fights should be any different, but just changing the premise back to, oh, we're using real Gunpla on a table where your plastic robot toys are taking real damage, suddenly makes the fights good again, but it does. Like, he goes into this fight with this shitty gachapon toy Gundam that's like 1/200 scale, right? It's not even a proper high grade against a like perfect grade 160 scale. What was it again? Like just a.
It was like a Destiny Gundam, I think, or maybe a
Destiny Gundam. Yeah, something from Seed, right? And like it does all the fun things that Gundam Build Fighters has always played with because of the premise of their toys fighting, right? So like. You know, he picks up scraps of Gunpla parts off the battlefield from, like, the other combatants and uses their weapons, you know? He does, like, really good stuff. Like, he picks up an arm that is, like, not to the scale of his Gunpla, right? So it's, like, it's like 2 times the size of a regular arm on the size of his Gunpla, but he can pick up the weapon of, you know, the bigger-sized toy and uses that to take down his opponent. And it's, like, all these, like, really good, fun bits. And then as soon as that's over, it turns back into Gundam Build Divers again, and we're all like, oh no, it's not interesting anymore.
But then it gets into how his backstory relates to Season 1 of Build Divers, which... Season 1 of Build Divers was a very boilerplate, like, oh, we need to help our AI friend exist because they all want to delete her because she's causing bugs in the game. And we need to protect our friend. Power of friendship, everyone.
And so, like...
So,
do you want to get into this era,
how does that square with the idea that the MMO is actually real?
Okay, because these are different... These are disparate plot elements of Gundam Build Divers that it has played with that actually tie together into what we were talking about how the suffering of a simulated sentient creature... is their suffering any less real if the suffering is simulated? And so the second episode kind of gets into his growing relationship with his AI waifu, right? And then eventually it
turns out existed before the one from season 1.
Right. It turns out that his AI waifu is the proto AI waifu, and that she is the cause of all the bugs because they are aberrant existences in this MMO. They are not meant to be. Their very existence tears at the reality of this MMO. That is why in season 1 they wage this huge guild war to decide the fate of the AI people, which again. Build Divers occasionally plays with interesting ideas and then always pulls back, but
right. So it turns out, he like pulled the trigger on her because she was like, I don't want to destroy the world. You need to shoot me.
Right. So
he does.
Sacrificed. Yeah.
And
then.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And then so he is forced to euthanize his AI waifu, right? And then it turns out that this all happens prior to the climax of Season 1. And he is a member of one of the guilds fighting to kill the AI waifus. He is on the pro-kill waifu side. And he suddenly comes to the resentful realization that the main character of Season 1, through the power of love and friendship, got to save his AI waifu. That the power of love cured the Season 1 protagonist's AI waifu of the evil. And he gets to live with his AI waifu. But the main character of Season 2 had to euthanize his AI waifu. And this realization destroys him.
He's got, like, the
destroys him.
Right, like they're showing stock footage of like the final battle, and the protagonist of Season 1 like winning the final battle. And then we zoom out, and he's just in the gun sights of the protagonist of Season 2.
And he's like sweating and hyperventilating and ready to pull the fucking trigger to end this man's life because of the hypocrisy, the sheer hypocrisy, the unfairness of the situation. Like he is truly channeling some like end of Nier Automata 9S energy, like just
Oh wow! Yeah.
petty, furious rage, like at the utter inhumanity of the system that has enacted this terrible tragedy upon him, and he doesn't care anymore. It doesn't matter that's an MMO to him. He just wants to hurt people. He just wants to lash out.
Except then not, because...
But then he doesn't.
Right.
Because he's the protagonist. He's the hero.
And it's fine that he doesn't pull a trigger, but then, like, they come back to the present, and he's like, oh, I'm so upset that I was ever on that side, and trying to fight the protagonist of Season 1, oh, I was in the wrong. And I'm like, no, the reason he needs to be upset is that, like, not that reason. The reason he needs to be upset is because he was genuinely, truly feeling, like, expressing these negative emotions.
Right. And he just bottles that back up. Like,
yeah,
he
basically.
didn't deal with all that. Like,
and it's like
right.
And it's like, and it is that reminder that for every single interesting thing Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise does, that at its core it's still a kids show. And in kids shows, protagonists aren't allowed to have negative emotions, right? They must always be plucky, right? They must always be the like, we can do it, guys. When like the actually more interesting. I'm sad
because he's sad for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, right. Because he has real reasons to be sad. He has real reasons for his anguish. But then he basically bottles them up and replaces them with, like, the generic protagonist's reasons for feeling sad. And it's just such a goddamn shame because for, like, about 2.5 minutes there, this show became Yoko Taro's Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise. And it was, like, so good and so interesting and, like...
So I'm still very confused.
Season 1. Okay, so Season 1 of
so the
Divers.
Season 2 animal people, are they real?
That's a yes,
they're
that's a
real.
Season 2 thing.
But
yes.
So is
So,
it
like,
not the
season-
same game?
It is the same game.
But then how are there AI people too?
there are just
that
AI
were
people.
Created by the game,
thing,
or are they?
yeah.
Do they also exist? How does that work?
some people are real.
So in
some people are real. Some people
Season
are
1's
AIs.
thing had real people logged into this game, and then also the AI people spawned from the digital sea, right?
Okay.
And now in Season 2, there are just a handful. There are just some AI people.
Okay.
And then apart from that, we also went to this other world.
Right, so the thing you have to understand is that in the context of Season 2, the real animal people are not in the MMO. What is happening is that apparently some, like, Plasky particle galactic space dust interference means that every time that the humans playing the MMO enter the region of the game where the animal people are, they're actually transferring into an actual real alien planet light years away.
Okay.
That these animal people live on, and that the MMO people can access through the game. It's an Ender's
So they
Game
don't really
situation,
explain how that
basically.
works, though.
No, of course not.
Okay.
No, of course not.
That's
It's
all
a
I
kid's
need to
show.
know. I just was confused.
Don't be
about that.
ridiculous, Barley.
Yeah, don't be absurd. It's
All right, but you're making this sound actually a lot more interesting than I was expecting.
Because it is! It is interesting! Gundam Build Divers Re-Rise is a deeply interesting show. It's also just...
Also a kid's show?
Yes, and it's only interesting like maybe 20% of the time, but the 20% of the time it is, I struggle to think of like a show that has like maybe captivated me more in its gesturing at the themes it's playing with.
I just wish he was, like, actually upset about the reasons you should be upset.
I wish Yoko Taro directed Gundam Build Divers.
No, he was too busy working on the Sino-Alice game, which was terrible.
Alright. Speaking of terrible...
Yeah, speaking of terrible, and I suppose waifu's ruining everything. Let's talk about Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out.
Tell us your wannabe film school opinions about this show.
Oh, yes.
Well, let's just leave that as a inside joke.
Yes.
But all right, I do want to preface my statements with a few things for some context. Let it be known that here at the GLORIO blog, there is no bigger defender of anime comedy than me here. So I think my track record speaks for itself.
Indeed.
On this. And, you know, I guess Uzaki-chan is technically a comedy in the mold of many other comedies that I've enjoyed. On paper, it sounds like something I should enjoy. And I did not. I found it very annoying. And I know we've talked at length about both in our preview podcast and in the write-up about the awful design of the main girl.
God, it's so bad.
And you know, not
I don't
just
know
her
what's
terrible
the problem, guys.
not just the fact that she looks like she's 12 but has like comically massive oversized beach ball breasts, but also because more than half of the jokes are based around that, and that's pretty much where the camera is focused for most of the episode.
And she has a shirt that says like super huge, I think, or something like that.
Does it say Mega,
Right,
Mega
something
Milk
like
on
that.
it?
It's almost
Basically.
the same.
I mean,
It's
yes.
almost the same as the Mega Milk shirt, yes. And here's the thing. Like, even if you took that aspect out, that's not the worst part of the show.
Wow.
It's just, it's a bad...
Yeah, it's just very unfunny.
It's just flat out annoying.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't... like, the main dude is boring, wishy-washy, sad sack loser guy.
I thought we were done talking about Gundam Build Divers.
I literally can't stand the sound of Uzaki-chan's voice.
Right. And she's just a bully. Like it's
right. Like there's no jokes or anything there. Like it's not funny or charming. They make like some real token effort. Like this was the best attempt they could make to make the main guy seem like a good dude. They run into each other at the movies or something like that, and they're going back and forth. She's negging him, which is the whole purpose of the show. And he grabs her nose or something and like tweaks her nose, and then like later on, like, just to shut her up. And then like later on, they're talking, and she's like still all happy and everything, but he sees that her nose is red and feels bad, and he's like, okay, fine, let's go see a movie.
What?
And it's like that was like their one attempt to add some like charm, or like make the main guy seem like, oh, maybe he's not that bad or something
right.
like that. That was like their one.
He like offers to pay for the movie. Yeah.
Right. He offers to pay for her movie ticket or something after that because he feels bad that he tweaked her nose, and that's like the best. That was like the best they could possibly do to make you care about the show. And then the jokes just aren't funny. They're all just like him getting embarrassed because she has huge boobs. Like that's the entire extent of the humor. And
Also,
it's
aren't
like,
they college
haha,
students,
he's
right?
lonely.
So like,
yes, so they are college students. And actually, like that actually was almost a funny joke in the beginning where like they meet up in the first year, and then like a whole year goes by within like 30 seconds, and then she comes back around and she's like, wait, you still don't have any friends? Okay, we're gonna go hang out or something. But
yeah, like that.
Other than
it
that,
had a premise that could work. It's just everything wrapped around the premise does not work.
I mean,
you gotta have like have good jokes, and you got to have like some kind of. It's got to be this kind of show has to be charming,
Right?
Like we always compare it to Takagi-san.
Right, exactly.
Okay, you
That's
beat me
what we were
to
talking
it. I was
in the
about to
preview.
bring up
Yes.
Kaguya-sama here because it's like
Oh, actually, he
that's
said
an unfair.
Oh, I was saying Takagi. Not
Oh,
Kaguya,
I thought you
but-
said Kaguya-sama. My bad. But...
Yeah, because I think specifically Takagi, because that's just like the two of them, and like the
Yeah,
whole show is just there.
It's kind of the
back and
dynamic
forth.
too of like a girl
Sure.
kind of bullying a guy, but with her it's a little bit more benign. Like Uzaki-chan is actively malicious, whereas Takagi is just a troll.
I don't.
I mean,
Okay, I don't
Takagi
know.
is a mind reader, right? So she's got that going for her. But
Well, right, she can read. Right. Oh yeah, and if you want to say whatever you're going to say about Kaguya, 'cause
sure. I mean, that's I was going to say.
it's
that
almost
se-
insulting.
Right, I was
it's
gonna
almost
say, that
insulting
seems
to
like
Kaguya.
I was
to
going
compare
to say,
this
the thing I was about to say was that seems like an unfair comparison, but since we've already brought it up, like, it's like, so the thing that you're talking about, it's like, these are all the things that Kaguya-sama does right? People don't really, like, think about it that carefully, but I think that comedies actually, maybe more so than a lot of anime, really hinge on the characters having extremely good chemistry. Like, it just
Right.
needs to be fun to watch the characters interact with each other, right? Like, why do we get
Right.
excited when it's like, oh man, it's Kaguya and Ishigami talking to each other. What a weird combo, but I can't wait to see how that plays out, right? Like, because all the characters are likable, but also have like distinct personalities that watching them bounce off each other is the fun of it. But then also the thing is like, the jokes change, right? Like, based on what you guys are describing of Uzaki-chan, it's like, it's like, imagine if Kaguya-sama 2 seasons later was still doing the, like, the initial Kaguya, what's his name? Shirogane, like, can't spit it out joke, right? Like, if they were doing literally that joke every episode for 2 whole seasons. Like,
Right.
that shit gets old super fast. And that joke at least had a decent premise. The joke of she's got big tits, like that
Right.
buys you at most maybe a couple minutes in a season.
Yeah, like even
like
Kaguya-san kind of goes into that with Fujiwara every once in a while.
right, but that's a joke that like only like that's a joke you can only play with for like maybe not even minutes, maybe seconds.
It's one.
before
It's
it gets
one.
old.
One card.
Yeah.
One card out of 52 in your
Right.
deck, right?
Yeah,
As
exactly.
opposed to
To the only one.
right.
And so it's like, I don't know, but again, it's like, in many ways, like, is Uzaki-chan just like the god of high school of romantic comedies? Of it's just not that ambitious of a show, like realistically.
Oh, it's not even. It's not even because at least God of High School is executing what it's trying to do well.
Right, I
Like,
meant
this
more
is not
that like
even-
this show's not aiming to be good. It's aiming to be exactly what it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's not even doing that well though.
Right.
Like it's just, and people are just good, and people are, well, certain kinds of people are eating it up, right? Because of, well,
I have no idea
we
why.
we are saying her design and personality is a negative, but there are other corners of the internet who would differ on that. I
look,
suppose.
man, waifus. As we just stated with Gundam Build Divers, man, people will go to wars over waifus. So
Yeah.
Yes.
it's a
Well-
very particular personal thing.
Well, bring it on! I'll fight this war.
Joe confirmed, member
yeah.
of the anti-waifu faction. He wants to
Yes,
exterminate the waifus.
I've got them in my crosshairs. Like,
Pull the trigger.
Pull the
Joe
trigger,
would have pulled the
Snake.
trigger.
I
Joe
would've
would
pulled the
have shut
trigger.
down season 1 of Gundam Build Divers.
all right, well, it ain't gonna get better on the next
Nope.
show.
Well, actually,
In
I
some
would
ways, perhaps.
argue it's better than Uzaki-chan, but it's not much.
Oh man.
I don't know. I've been back and forth on this one. We're talking about Rent a Girlfriend, which is about this guy who, again, they're in college, which makes zero difference in this case.
Right.
But he gets his first girlfriend who immediately breaks up with him, and rather than think about, well, maybe I'm a jerk and I don't deserve to have a girlfriend, it's not my fault. So let me go spend hundreds of dollars of my parents' money that they gave me to go to college on renting a girlfriend to try to make me feel better, and then complain about it when I realize that she's not actually my girlfriend and she's just putting on an act because I'm paying her.
The thing that I did at the very beginning of the date, like, that's the most... I didn't realize that that's how the thing works. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. You want to get that money up front so the guy doesn't, dine and dash, essentially. But, boy, it just is such a depressing thing to think about.
As a freelancer, always get paid up front. Always get paid up front.
But, okay, so I think there are actually a lot of people that like the show, and I think they're probably hoping that the main guy is going to learn his lesson.
Right.
I have zero faith that that's going to happen, because... So what happens is they kind of... Toward the end, they get into this situation where he goes to see his sick grandma at the hospital and has to bring her along, and they get this whole thing about how, his grandma is so happy to see that he has a girlfriend, and she's super hot, and he gives this whole speech about how, that's the other thing. This guy is he's so whiny and mopey, he talks like this.
Oh, good, my favorite type of harem protagonist.
He's like, oh, my heart is so broken.
And he's the kind of
I don't
nerd
know
that
how I can. Yeah, but then he'll get mad and stuff at dumb things like I said, he gets mad about her putting on this act. How can you do this? Put that face on.
But he hires her, right? That's the thing,
yes.
right?
No, he's well aware.
He's not getting tricked here, right?
Right.
And so here's
what is he expecting?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. So both in that situation and also when he starts giving this whole thing oh, I'm sorry, but I promised my grandma that before she dies, I'd find a good woman and that she could meet her, and it gives this whole speech about it, and it's supposed to be this, and they're setting it up as this heartwarming moment, and then she actually calls him out on it, right? And she's like, no, that's stupid. Shut up, and I don't ever want to see you again, and all this stuff. And then of course they, but. So I'm like, okay, we could work with that, and maybe he'll learn his lesson or something. But no, instead they reveal that oh, she's actually one of his college classmates, and they already start to hint that she's warming up to him anyway. After hearing that he's kind of a grandma's boy or something, they cut to the steam-covered shower scene of her kind of smiling and thinking about him, and they're already redeeming him for no reason.
The sexiest of traits, basic respect for your elders.
And then the next thing is, I thought about watching episode 2, but then I decided I have more respect for myself than that. But
yes.
they did put a preview where it's the implication is that the ex-girlfriend becomes a main character, and I'm like, this just sounds like an opportunity for to be almost like a pseudo power fantasy of oh, my ex-girlfriend's gonna be jealous now that I have this girlfriend.
Right. Yep.
I mean, that's a plot line as old as time, right? I mean, fucking Western sitcoms have done literally the exact premise. So
aside from me just saying the show is bad, I just want that to be a warning to everybody out there that thinks there's some thread of hope that there's going to be progress and this guy is going to go somewhere. I don't think there is. I think they've already laid the groundwork for his redemption, basically, without him doing anything. And it probably will, like Marlon said, be more of a power fantasy type of thing of, now I've got 2 hot girls fighting over me.
It's looking like more than 2 if you look
it
at
almost,
promotional material.
And sure, throw some more on there. Why not?
It almost sounds to me like this show would have worked better if it had leaned more into the other type of anime comedy that we like, where everybody is a terrible human being, and just leans into that more.
It almost could have become that, but they definitely.
Or even if they just stuck to their guns and calling the guy out, if they had just done that.
I mean, based on that, what I know about anime, just saying he did bad thing is already might as well be. They probably think that's plenty.
Right. Lesson learned, right? But yeah, and if like the show is, if the show actually was about this girl keeping him in check and him learning to be a better person and actually progressing as a better person, then that could probably be all right. But I have zero faith that that's where the show is going based on what we've seen. So, if anybody read the manga out there or whatever, prove me wrong. But that's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's keep hitting these winners then with.
All right.
Yay.
It's the exact same.
Why is this one even
Well,
on the
it was
list?
better. Both those shows were better than Monster Girls Doctor. I just want to tell my one little anecdote that I laughed hysterically at.
In a good way or bad way?
Bad.
Okay. Just
I
to be
did
clear.
laugh. So the very first minute of the show is this deadly serious cold open on the history of mankind and these monster people and how they fought each other for centuries, and they're showing this montage of battles and people dying, and it's super serious. And then as they're kind of fading off of the history thing and kind of panning down into the doctor's office, they immediately go straight to a woman moaning and this dude's hands up in her, under her top, feeling up her breasts, and Yep. They just take that from there, which apparently was a pregnancy test.
What? How does that make sense?
For minotaurs?
Wait, no, what?
Yeah, because they get
I kind of get it, because a cow's udders do swell when they get pregnant. But yeah,
right, but that's not the definitive way you tell this.
Also, let's be real. That's just a pretense for what they actually are doing here. So
right.
Yep, and so they play it. It's weird. They play it very serious. There is no joy in the show whatsoever. It is 100% clinical. There's no jokes or anything really, but it doesn't really line up with the fact that they're just doing pervy harem nonsense and weird. Probably the weirdest fetish thing is when he's putting the he's putting horseshoes on the centaur girl.
How's that? That's not a doctor's job.
Is that a doctor's job?
And I guess so. And she's getting aroused by him filing her hooves or something.
The whole point is that they don't feel that.
Right.
I was gonna say, I don't think the hooves are an erogenous zone, right? Isn't that just basically toenail? Or
that's no fun though. That'd be real boring. Maybe it's different with centaurs than horses. I don't know. But
looking at the promotional material for the show, I have always wondered, does the Daily Lives with Monster Girls guy have a class action lawsuit he could bring on all of these monster girl?
Although
people?
his main monster girl is his assistant, who is also a doctor but did not get the head position because she's a woman. But she's a lamia or snake
of course,
girl
gotta
or
get
whatever.
the snake tits
Yeah.
here.
And there's clearly a what do you call them? Not a siren, but a harpy.
Harpy.
And so this is just that other. It's all the same.
Those are
why?
those are classic monsters.
Yeah, the three monster girls: Centaur, Lamia, and Harpy. Just the mage,
the
mage fighter,
Bulbasaur, Squirtle, and Charmander.
the holy
mage
Trinity.
fighter and thief of monster girls. The holy
The
Trinity.
holy Trinity of
Getting flashbacks to the manga, yeah.
I should have made you watch this one, Iro.
How about no?
Expert. But you dodged Peter Grill.
Damn straight I did.
So, Peter Grill is not on our list because it turned out to be a short, and by technicality, we don't usually cover shorts unless we.
Try
really
I meant it
want
like
to.
a bandit.
Yeah. So the other Monster Girl show we did not watch. I have seen it's at near the top of the popularity list on Crunchyroll.
I mean, of course it is.
Yeah, and then what? So was Shield Hero. So
yeah,
fucking...
yeah, along with All right, let's move along to Gibiate.
I don't know why you felt the need to tell us to watch this one, but
yeah, why did you tell us to watch this one, Jel?
I'm glad I avoided that.
Okay, I need to air this because Well, no, it's because like here's the
So-
thing. Here's the thing, right? When someone like Jell says, "Oh, you should watch that," I'm not going in thinking, "Oh, maybe it's really good." No, I'm going in thinking, "Oh, it must be like such a disastrous train wreck
Right.
that there's entertainment to be gained just in watching it happen." But like
not even
Gibiate or
that
Gibiate
entertaining.
or whatever is like it's not even like entertainingly bad. It's just like unremarkable. I don't know. Jell, maybe explain for
you
us.
guys didn't like those. You guys didn't like those CG monsters.
didn't.
I mean,
No.
those CG monsters are hilariously bad. Don't get me wrong, but like,
I'm more baffled by like the Yuzo Koshiro music.
right? So that show actually has a ridiculous A-tier like staff attached to it, right? You have Yoshitaka Amano doing the art. You have motherfucking Yuzo Streets of Rage Koshiro on the music. Like even Streets of Rage 4 couldn't get Yuzo Koshiro for like more than like a track. And you have motherfucking Char Aznable voicing a character. Like, did they just spend all their budget on the hiring staff and like none of it on the show itself?
Yeah, it looks bad.
So
it's not
I don't know, man.
not a good
not.
show.
No, definitely not.
Just to remind everyone of the premise, there's a global pandemic ravaging mankind.
Okay, what about the show though?
The leaders of humanity have failed to stop
What
it.
about the
Yeah,
show?
what about
though?
a show,
And,
Joe?
And then as far as the anime goes, there is a virus spreading around, which turns people into monsters. And for some reason, two time-traveling, well, one's a samurai and one's a ninja.
Of
if we wanna
course.
get technical. Show up in the present time.
Everyone's
for
totally
reasons
okay
unexplained.
with this.
Um,
You have like
but yeah,
one
I took a
person
screen-
who's like, "What the fuck are you saying, dude?"
yeah, nobody seems to really care. I took a screenshot of
Mom.
the mom saying, "Oh, well, someday you'll have to tell me about the Edo period."
God.
Okay.
Yeah, which I think they did explain.
See, her
she
mind's
then just explains that her
broken.
mother.
Right, but it's like,
It's
but
just,
the thing is, like, so here's the thing, right? Like, you could lean into that if she was the only character who was nonplussed by their explanation, right? Like,
Right.
if everybody else was like,
But everybody else is pretty chill with
Right,
it.
'cause everybody-
other than like, oh, well, these samurai are here
Right,
to take our
like,
food
the
or
problem
something.
is that her
like,
reaction-
nobody's
Right, they're
asking
more-
why are samurai here.
right, they're more concerned that, oh, just more mouths to feed, rather than, hello, a time-traveling samurai and ninja showed up at your front door. Like,
Right.
it would be
The
one
dr-
thing
the
if the
driver's
mom
just like-
character...
Driver's just like, "Oh, you're a samurai, cool. Let me go get my ancestral sword for you."
Right, my sword that I keep in my fucking apartment. Like, it would be one thing if, like, the mom was the only character who was taking it stride, but everybody's taking it in stride, right? Like, even the fucking, like, they say they're, like, U.S. Marines there, and even they're just like, you got a dude there just looking sort of like Guile, and his concern isn't time-traveling samurai, his concern is, like, you know, can this Jap be trusted? Like, that's it! Like, it's like, what? I've met Marines before, and don't get me wrong, they've seen some shit, but I think even they would be a little thrown off guard by the man introducing himself as an Edo period samurai thrown through a portal in time to 2030.
Flung him into the future.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yes. A foolish samurai warrior stepped forth to oppose me.
So, yeah, so this is some hot anime trash. I wish it was good.
Do you?
Part of me kind of wishes it was
you?
good.
Do you?
There was, I don't know, there's a certain nostalgic appeal to it to me for some reason.
I mean, yeah,
Like, it feels like so... It feels like something made out of from the 90s.
Oh
or,
yeah, those
whatever.
like the character designs
the
of the samurai and the ninja.
Amano character design. Wait, I laughed out loud when they introduced the doctor.
Oh my god, that dude.
The like with the beautiful doctor with his
Uh-huh.
long wavy
Gonna
hair
pin you
and
against
his,
the wall and
yeah,
and then fucking Char Aznable's voice comes out of it, and I completely lose it.
but yeah, it's not good though.
like
the
Go ahead.
I mean the animation's like it's not just bad, but it's just weird. like I don't know how to explain it because I'm not a film school student.
You sure?
But like just the way like the things are cut and stuff like was weird. I don't know. Like
No, it's bad.
It was just bad.
And
then
yeah, it's bad. It's just
the
not
icing on the
well
cake.
made.
The icing on the cake is the worst CG monsters I've seen since Love Total Eclipse.
Yeah, those
Oh boy.
some bad CG monsters. Holy shit.
You guys were talking about PS1
Yeah.
era 3D graphics.
The ending of No Gun's Life Season 2 looks substantially better than the monsters.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because at least the ending of No Gun's Life has like
Movement.
lighting and like something resembling art direction, whereas like these monsters straight up look like Toku rejects.
Okay, if GBA was Toku, though, I'd be probably into it.
I mean,
Yeah,
I was
this
talking about
actually
this with
probably would make
Eero,
a
like
better
the
live
plot.
action, no?
Like, I was like, are you sure this plot isn't just like a rejected script for like a Garo film or something? Like, it feels like it. Like,
Yeah,
it
kinda.
has that vibe.
That's
to
the
it.
thing. Like, we don't even know why the samurai guy is there or anything at this point. Like, presumably they're gonna fight the monsters,
Sure,
but like.
but
Right.
But what are they? But that they don't get to any of that in the first episode. I mean, my theory is that there's probably something going to be with their blood from another time period fighting the virus or something. But
I don't know, and just
I don't really care enough to speculate
yeah,
on it.
and just
Yeah.
like due to recent statements from Yoshitaka Amano, I cannot help but view the show in a certain lens.
right,
of it
like,
being like-
it doesn't take much to kind of. It doesn't take much to interpret this work as like a very certain strain of like right wing nationalism, like the
Right,
decadent
the-
future
right,
must be
the noble-
saved by the noble samurai of a bygone era.
Right.
Like,
I could definitely see them leaning into that, especially with their depiction of the people at the camp, where the girl's trying to convince them that, oh yeah, no, these people are good people, trust me, and they're all not showing that they're good people. They're all, like we mentioned, they're like, oh, more mouths to feed or something. And,
Right.
yeah, I could see them moving in that direction, but I don't think anyways are going to keep watching it, so who cares?
Well said.
All right, let's keep powering through these.
God, there's more. You're right. Jesus.
We're almost done.
Mr. Love, Queen's Choice, the Otome game adaptation of the season. I'm just gonna say this has like most of these Otome games have good premises, but then they just turn into
Does
standard
this one
Otome
have
games,
singing
which this one did.
Pomeranians? Then why
No.
do we even give
But
it?
we talked about how like the main girl like inherits her father's company or something, and like I thought it was just gonna be like generic quote unquote company that just has money and does business and it doesn't really matter, but it's actually she inherits a production company that produces a TV show that's sort of like a paranormal investigation type of show thing.
Okay.
And in the course of her looking for content, looking for hashtag content, she starts tracking down these hot superpower guys that are probably going to be on the show, and it ends up just being boring.
this is that show.
It just ends up being like boring boilerplate, dating sim stuff.
oh, is this
But I
the
was
show?
thinking-
Is this the show with the four main classes of Otome games? CEO, cop,
Yes,
doctor,
so there's a
and,
CEO, cop, idol, and
idol. Yes.
There's one other one I don't even remember. It might have been
Like
the
the
little
Paw
boy.
Patrol
You
of
have to have a
idols.
little boy in there.
Okay.
But I think this show would have actually made a great comedy.
Well, I
really?
guess they played
If you
100%
did-
straight.
If you did like plucky young woman inherits her failing TV show, and she has to save the TV show with this group of hot superpower guys by any means necessary, and they get into
I mean, that's
wacky
basically what
hijinks
classical
as they're-
is.
Yes. So if this is basically classical,
Wasn't expecting us to go there.
I think this could have been great, and like the show, like it actually has some pretty lighthearted moments that I think that were like moving my brain in that direction, and I'm like, you know what? If they had like stuck with that, this probably would have been a fun show. But no, they just start getting into the the standard dating sim stuff.
Did
So.
anyone pin her against the wall?
No, but the CEO guy who was their main investor cancels her show, and he's the you always have to have the one that's the asshole.
Yeah,
guy,
of course. The one
because
who,
that's hot.
the one who negs.
And right, because that's hot. And so she's like, in 5 years, I'll have the best TV show, and you'll be begging me to come back. And he's like, all right, go ahead and make me. And then it's yeah. So
didn't pull some like, if you don't do it in 5 years, I'll make you marry me or something.
no, they didn't go that far. Thankfully, they didn't.
Which is a very hot thing for guys to say. Take notes, everybody.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you like this kind of show, it's one of the better
one of those,
ones that
right?
I've seen for sure. But yeah, otherwise, no. All right. Well, let's wrap this up with Japan Sinks 2020.
The other capital D discourse show of the season.
Yes.
Which before we get into the actual content itself, this dropped on Netflix in its entirety across the globe, actually.
Yep.
So you can actually this is a rare instance where it's I guess, Devilman Crybaby situation where everybody can watch it.
Yeah.
Right
It is
now,
my understanding is that it is an actual Netflix original and not what Netflix original sometimes claims to be.
Yeah.
right.
Spoiler alert: the dub is terrible.
Wow, I feel like it's been a while since we've heard of like a really bad dub, because I feel like these days
Right.
most dubs are like at least
I don't know
function
who they
passable,
got to do this
at
dub.
least, yeah.
They got Jameson Price to do one of them, or not whatever. The guy who's the deep-voiced guy. What is it?
yeah, that's Jameson Price. Isn't
Okay,
it?
yeah, Jameson Price. But like, all of the other people give the most wooden performances. I thought I was like listening to a '90s
Oh,
OVA
man.
or something. It was really bad.
Wow.
So like,
yeah.
That's-
But I think.
like,
Go ahead.
I was just really floored. They were like, "Oh no, don't do that, Megumi." None of the characters are named Megumi. It's like that's the kind
Sure,
of
I
delivery
would
that
get
they
it.
are given in this show.
Man,
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, no, it's not great. That's terrible. But
That's only the beginning.
I just feel like we haven't. I just feel like we haven't heard. I just feel like dubs got competent one day, right? Like I feel
Yeah.
like
Right.
it used to be the old joke about weebs that like, oh, you watch the dub, huh? But like I feel like these days it's like dubs are like at worst
They're pretty.
average, right? Like,
right,
yeah,
yeah.
like they're never like
Not.
obscenely bad, right? Like bad to the point of being distracting. At least not anymore, but
I was so
Yeah.
surprised because I watched the first two episodes in Japanese, and then I watched it with a friend, and he likes watching dubs, so I was like, they actually have one, so why not? Boy, yeah.
that's
So
I feel like
well-
the thing I want to talk about is that G and I have only watched the first 2 episodes, and I think we are broadly positive on the show so far.
I would say so.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
Marlon, you and Artemis have seen the whole show, and both of you think it sucks.
Yeah. Okay. So to be fair, I only watched 5 episodes, but it was enough
And
for
I'm
me
not gonna lie, I'm kind of surprised hearing that from a fellow Yuasa fanboy to hear
No, right?
a turn that hard on
But
something like
I
this.
guess
It's
Iro, I guess Iro, your point though is like, this is the Netflix problem, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
there's only so
yeah.
we can only talk about, and for the record, I also only watched the first 2 episodes, and I didn't want to watch after past episode 2, so we'll get into that. But the point is now, like,
Right.
the discussion of it, it's impossible to be on equal footing because not everybody's gonna have time to sit there
I'm
and
both
watch.
frustrated at the Netflix problem of everyone's at a different spot, and I'm also just curious about how hard it must swerve, apparently.
Yeah, because like I mean that is the problem, right? Like I get that like the capital D discourse is not a priority for media companies, right? Like I'm sure
Right.
they have analysts and metrics, and they've done the math a million times, and whatever reason it tells them that dropping things in a batch like this is better for business. Like if that's the case, so be it. But like it just really sucks to discussing it, right? Like the same
Yeah.
thing happened to Devilman Crybaby, where like the discussion for Devilman Crybaby was like white hot for like 3 weeks and then completely dried up afterward, right? Like,
Like 3
nobody
weeks might
talked
be
about
generous.
it. Yeah, like maybe 2 weeks. Nobody
Right.
talked about it afterwards, right? Until the Anime of the Year, end of year discussions came up again. But like otherwise, it's like, it's just, I don't know. It's not. Again, I can't. I don't have the numbers, right? I don't have the math. I don't have the objective numbers to prove this. But I feel like it hurts. It hurts the ability to discuss and internalize
Right.
these shows. Like, you don't have that week-long period to, internalize the themes and discuss it with other people. And
Right.
because like we might as well just get into the show itself. As a quick recap, right? The premise is that a huge natural disaster occurs, and Japan is caught in the midst of it and seems to appear to be sinking into the ocean, which even the show points out is scientifically not how that works due to the way Japan was formed by the tectonic plates. But
You gotta
it's
give 'em
speculative fiction.
something. And the first episode
Right.
is
And
really amazing. Like, I was really
I
impressed.
Yeah,
I love.
I think we all liked the first episode.
I even like the second episode.
And-
I think both episodes that at least Iro and I watched up to, it's a lot of like what Yuasa is very strong as a director for, right? Like, if I know that, like, I know Devilman Crybaby was a little much for some of you guys in terms of like how willing it was to just delve deep into like utter human
Depravity.
misery. But like, I think. But also I think that like in many ways that spoke to like Yuasa's strongest traits as a director is that he's a very frank director, right? He doesn't shy away. He doesn't use subtext for these sorts of things, right? His depiction of events is very grounded. It's very human. Like in episode 1, right, where like you're watching everybody react to this disaster, like I think a lesser director would have like relied on a lot of the old tricks of anime, right? Like quick zoom-ins and like swelling music, right? Like all that stuff, but like.
Right.
Yuasa portrays what is clearly a very traumatic natural disaster in like almost like it's documentary footage, right? Like it's just
Right.
people walking past dead bodies
Yeah.
and like and there's no
We're
like
not-
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get any argument there as far as how that's getting depicted, and like I don't have a problem with the it's a very graphic show, and I don't have a problem with that in itself. I think just to piggyback on episode 1 was very good, and it gave me the impression of this was going to be, and even probably the majority of episode 2. I was thinking, this is going to be this sort of grounded, harsh, maybe even bittersweet though, like tale of disasters bringing out the best and worst out of people, all that stuff.
Right.
That's what you think it's going to be
And
Oh my god. See, this is why we can't have this discussion.
Sorry.
We can't have this
Sorry.
discussion.
I'll let you keep talking. I will let you
I'm
keep
sticking.
talking.
I'm sticking to just to episode 2 here. My feelings
Right.
on episode 2. I don't know anything about what happens after. I have not heard anything. Nothing's been spoiled for me. I'm sticking just strictly on my gut feeling from watching episode 2. When they get to the twist at the end, and again, spoiler flags here, everybody. But the twist at the end is the father is digging up. They're building up to this like really sweet moment of I'm assuming his daughter's vegetarian is why she wasn't eating.
Oh no,
meat or
I
something.
took it as she was reminded too much of the human corpse she just saw.
Yeah.
Maybe that's yes, that too, because she actually. Yeah. So anyway, she didn't want to eat meat when they were eating the. Oh well, first of all, it was crazy when he somehow managed to wrestle a feral hog.
Just
But,
one feral hog.
Yes, not 30 to 50, but he did wrestle one. And so they get to this. They're building up as like this sweet moment of he's trying to dig up some yams for his daughter feels too sick to eat the meat. And everyone's like banding together, and they're building up this feel-good moment. And again, never questioning Yuasa's directing ability. Like, and did he direct? He was actually directing this, or is it just his name on this? I don't remember.
It has his style.
I mean,
Yeah. Like
he is
there is
listed
still
as the
sort of like
director.
this. There is still sort of like this ominous feeling, even though it's sort of like a sweet moment or whatever.
Oh, totally.
And it goes to. And then finally the big moment hits where I guess
Unexploded
it's revealed that
landmines.
I thought it was
he's
like
in
bombs from
in
the
an
war.
old landmine. Yeah, it's like an old landmine field or something, or old bombs or something, and they cut to the dad tapping the bomb, just like exploding into pieces, and like his finger with the ring on it, like splattering by his wife as she's trying to like prepare to cook or something. And I'm like, oh, this is just gonna be misery porn, isn't it? That was my gut feeling by the end of episode 2, and that's only based on watching episode 2. I don't know if that's where it goes, but I have not heard anything that confirms either way.
So
whether
speaking
I'm right.
just to episode 1 and 2, I think I do agree that the swerve at the end of episode 2 is a little much. Like I am definitely not opposed to like human tragedy and suffering in my disaster fiction, right? Like I
do want to point out.
Sorry. Oh yeah.
Before you get too far, G,
Yeah.
I do want to point out, just to differentiate between this and like Devilman Crybaby, which does way worse things. Like I felt like most of the time in Devilman Crybaby, the like really horrible things that were happening served a thematic purpose. Sometimes I would argue they dipped into sex and violence is cool aspect of it, but most of the time I was fine with it all because like I felt like that was like all part of the message of the show.
That is Devilman at the end of the day. So.
Right, and I haven't really seen enough to make a definitive statement on this, but my feeling at the end of episode 2 is that wasn't really what we're going here. We're just going for like shocking horror movie type, horror stuff.
Yeah, I think maybe my issue a little bit with the end of episode 2. I mean, again, it was not enough to put me off. I think at the end of episode 2, I was still fully like sold on the show because I think like. Again, having not seen any of the rest of the show, I mean, I'm sure, Marlon could confirm or deny this, but, like, my vibe is that this is eventually going to start getting into the, like, Mad Max, The Last of Us adjacent, like, the real monster is man, right? Like, humans turning on each other, blah, blah, blah sort of thing, right? Like, and
to be fair,
I'd expect some of
the last 5 episodes, but... Okay, sorry, keep going.
But I guess my point is that if the tragedy and the violence came from that, I don't think that would really surprise any of us, right? Like, oh no, like even a society like Japan, people are going to start wearing tires on their shoulders and, building makeshift spears and crossbows, right? Like, of course that shit's going to happen. Like, I wasn't necessarily opposed to that. I think that maybe the issue at the end of episode 2 is that, like, I don't think anyone is saying that unattended minefields don't exist. I think it's maybe just it is
very convenient,
comically timed.
Yeah, because it's like I don't know. It's like they portray the dad as like such a competent character, right? Like, oh, he's a survivalist. He knows how to cook and hunt and build shit and stuff, right? And so for him of all people to not like read the signs a little bit more closely because the explanation. Right, because the explanation is, oh, it's overgrown. He didn't see the sign because the ivy covered it. But, like, that dude of all people not, like, brushing it aside to read closer. Like, and I get it. It's a source of drama, right? Because up until the end of episode 2, you're like, as long as the dad's here, these guys are going to be fine, right? Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah.
He can handle this all, right? Like, he's clearly, like, he is the obligatory guy in the Apocalypse movie who is, like, the smartest guy in the room. So, of course he dies, right? Like, of course he does, to escalate the drama. I think it's just that maybe the way they chose to go about it was a little ham-fisted. And, again, it's like, I don't know, Marlon, I kind of don't want you to spoil anything for me, because it's like, in a lot of ways, like, this is the issue with the Netflix thing, is that your and Artemis's, like, takes have already so thoroughly, like, kind of already added a new filter to this discourse that, like... Because here's the thing, right? Like, what if Iro and I... Here's the thing. What if Iro and I watch this and we love it, right? Like, what if that happens?
Then I will be so surprised.
I'm just saying, right? But, like, that's...
Can I show this GIF? But I've been wanting to show these guys this GIF for, like, a week now.
I didn't want to get spoiled, but for the sake of the podcast, for the sake of entertainment, I'll let you post this GIF, but I don't want any context, I don't want any explanation.
Okay. Well, can I explain it for the audience as you guys are watching it?
Sure.
I'm going to click this GIF.
Okay, so at a certain point, they meet an old man, and I'm not going to explain any of the details around this.
What?
But this old Okay, so this guy,
I don't know if you even. Oh my god!
this old man is on a scooter, and he comes out of the elevator as a man with a gun starts to approach him. And as the man tries to shoot him, he spins the scooter around very slowly, which somehow blocks the bullets. And then the man, armed with a bow and arrow, shoots him. And so the man falls to the ground, and as he is passing him by on the old person's scooter, he fires another arrow into the ground next to him randomly. I'm like, this was the moment where I was like, what has happened? What is going on?
Damn, Last of Us got wild.
I know, right? I was saying, I can't believe he fucking 360 no scope shot that dude with a bow. Holy crap! That's. I mean, so okay.
I feel like
that's
even with no context, I feel like that is confirming my feelings on the show.
And like this is a problem, right? Because it's like, I mean, on some level, I do think this is a thing I wish I had organically discovered, but also this is wild. Thank you for showing me this. I feel like this is crazy. I can't even.
But right,
like,
there's almost no way to experience this show without it being without your opinion being tainted in some way.
So then, because now this leads me to my question of like, is this a budget thing, right? Because the thing about the scene is like, the scene is both low budget but also like poorly directed, and like that is out of character for Yuasa,
That has
right?
been the
like,
crazy thing.
Yuasa's not exactly like a premier action animator, right? But you look at Eizouken, you look at ping pong, right? Like think about some of the best matches in ping pong. Dude can direct like really kinetic, frantic action, and this looks like a student film, right? This looks like a student animation. It's so like it's not even just like it's that. It's like it's not just the events that are absurd, but like.
Yeah, just the pacing of what happens is absurd. Yeah, and that happens a lot in the show.
The timing is so off in this shot, right? Like this thing needs to be like double the speed at bare minimum. Like it's, yeah, and man, it's right. And now, I mean, I'm gonna keep watching because like I still have positive feelings about that show up to where I've watched, but now it's like it's a little bit of a shame that like. I'm going to be watching the rest of this kind of like waiting for the other shoe to drop. But like, it kind of sounds like that's maybe what happens here. But yeah. I don't know. It's
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in episode 1 we were sold on this sort of, grounded type of, experience of, that, I think would work a lot better if we're trying to explore humanity and all that.
Yeah.
But I was not expecting an old man to be
This is like
no-scoping somebody with a bow and arrow. Where does that fit in? Where does that fit into that?
I mean,
thematically,
in many ways, I mean, Iro, you joke, but in many ways, this kind of gets to the heart of even The Last of Us's thematic issue of like, oh no, it's the end of mankind. Like, we're gonna bring out the best and worst in humanity. Okay, go proceed to murder like 1,000 people. It's.
Well, you see, here in the zoo, we have a mirror. Labeled the most dangerous animal.
Oh man, and then let me guess, you look at the mirror and you see yourself. I don't know, it's weird because like I think that again, even episode 2, despite how we feel about the end of episode 2, like there's a lot of great moments leading up to it, right? Like even just like
most of the episode is good, but I feel like that final moment is like, oh, this is where we're going,
right? But then it's like, well, what happens to the show? Like, why does Yuasa change his approach? Because it's like, I don't know. Again, it's like
I think
maybe we were all just riding that Eizouken high, but I feel like Yuasa is like one of the few anime directors that many of us kind of implicitly trust to like never let us down, honestly. So it's
I mean, but it's not an original,
right?
Like he does have to
go
with the
I
source.
mean, Eizouken's an adaptation.
It definitely seems to be something about the source material, if you ask me.
Maybe it is, but like it's like Eizouken's an adaptation. Ping Pong's an adaptation.
Yeah.
Isn't Tatami Galaxy an adaptation?
Yeah, it is.
Like he's worked with pre-existing source material. Actually, it feels like he's worked with pre-existing source material
most of the time.
Most of his career, right? Devil May Cry Baby's an adaptation.
Yeah.
Shoot, like so. He's clearly not inexperienced at working with source material and enhancing it. So,
I'm just saying the actual. Well, I don't know if
like the actual work here is so bad that
bow
even,
and arrow is coming from. I don't know if that's coming from the original. I think was it a book?
I think
it was
so.
Originally.
Yeah.
From the 70s.
But it's like, I don't know, man. It's stuff like, even if the book was bad, even if the book had the scene of, and then the old man rode in on his scooter and did a sick 360 spin before he landed an arrow right in that motherfucker's gut. Like, even if that passage exists in the book, like, Yuasa of all
You
people...
could at least make it look good.
Yeah,
right?
Yuasa would at least
Yeah.
make it look good. Like...
There definitely seems to be budget problems in this show, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's
Also, the first 2 episodes already show a problem that will continue to happen, where I think this seems to be an influence of Netflix, where every episode has to end on a cliffhanger.
That's
And
very
it's-
Netflix.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
that's
not
very
exactly the best
Netflix.
way to tell an anime. I mean, some anime do a lot of cliffhanger stuff, but it's literally every episode there's got to be some new thing happening.
How else are you gonna binge the
Right.
series in one shot and then talk about it in front of people who've only seen 2 episodes?
Right, it's gonna make they gotta make you they gotta make you keep the they gotta make you push the I'm still watching this button after
Yeah.
Netflix has been running for
Yeah.
3 hours or whatever.
I mean,
Works
just
against them
I
in
will
this
also say,
case.
so just to give words to the only person on the blog who actually watched the show to completion, we will just say that Artemis, for the record, states, and I read here, I regret literally every second.
yeah.
I
Marlon's saying he didn't like it and stopped it at episode 5. Artemis is saying she absolutely hated this show, like in very strong language. So
yeah, we'll have to have her in next time.
I don't know. And that's the thing, like, when are we going to talk about the show as a whole? Like, are we going to wait till season recap? It's the same issue with Great Pretender, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
I guess
Like we
when are we supposed to
haven't
talk
even
about
finished
these
watching
shows?
Great Pretender.
right. Like,
whatever. Yeah, I mean, I guess however many episodes you watched by the time we talk again. I don't
Try to
know.
get to
Who
episode
knows?
5 next time for this, just so you can have the context I have, because
I guess. I guess.
Who knows what next episode is going to look like? To be
yeah.
honest. So we'll figure all that out. But as for this episode, though, I think we are done. So that covers pretty much everything we watched. It's a bleak season, but we'll figure something else. We'll figure something out to talk about next time, I'm sure. We did mention Great Pretender, which I think we've all watched at least half of it at this point. So we'll be able to touch base on that again. But, that'll run out eventually, so who knows. All right. So that'll do it for this one. Just to do our housekeeping, check us out at theglorioblog.com, where you can read all of our first looks posts on these. You can follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean, and you can also follow us on YouTube. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and that's going to do it. We'll see everybody next time.
「またない彼氏ってられない」「街に繰り